And let me just try and find my tab with this.
It's interesting because parallelly we are doing one Decentraland project. So, and you are also experimenting on Decentraland with some developer kit. So, small world.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it started off with just how do you move 3D objects into Decentraland, and now it's like setting up a server to inform what's actually going on for the avatars. But sorry, if you saw the amount of tabs I've got, you'll be disgusted. It's
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe we could create a GitHub where we could like keep a repo for Decentraland, custom scenes, and custom code. Because a lot of different functionalities we could integrate, like a library of Akidao SDK for Decentraland, and you can call those functions.
Yeah, I mean,
why don't you do it on the why don't you do it on the Akidao main GitHub, Major?
Yeah, that's what I was proposing that
Yep.
Yeah, that could become a centralized like Decentraland code base.
Yeah. Well, with the Discord bots though, and it's kind of handy. Replit is pretty cool in that. Oh, did my screen stop? Can you still see my screen?
No.
Oh, sorry. Let me just try that again. Yep. Yeah, the Discord bot has a key, an API key, and you need to store it somewhere safe. But Replit has .env, storage for keys that aren't accessible to the public, but you can make the code available, but to the public at the same time. But I guess there's many ways to do it. I even started to create a DigitalOcean droplet and just sort of seeing how you could like really scale this up instead of just using Replit. But this is it here. It's really basic. I've got it running C in Replit, and I have what they call Uptime bot, and Uptime bot pings this server every 5 minutes, so it keeps it running. Otherwise you can pay for a Replit account, and then it'll be up constantly. But in this way, it's all free. So
that's a good hack.
Yeah. So you've got a free server. Just pump it along. So you can see here, over here on the right, it's just pinging the server. And I just got this thing saying, hello, I'm alive. So, and up here, you can see the big thing is importing Discord. And I've got, just accessing the Discord Discord Python API.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of little things. It's just basically looking at, these are some methods that, functions that I'm calling, but these are the methods on the client side that I'm calling. So this is parallel with Discord Python's library. So you've got onReady just basically saying that you're logged in as whoever you are. In this case, it's a bot, and then basically whenever a message is created, it just makes sure that the message that's created on the Discord service channel is not the bot itself. Just to make sure that that's the case. So if it's not, go ahead and run this function add message, and add message just grabs the channel and the timestamp of the message that's created. It's not pulling the actual message content at all. It's really just the timestamp and the channel that it was done on, and then it checks if the channel has been created at all within the database. If it's not there, create a new channel with this timestamp. If it is there, then update the timestamp that's currently on the channel, and that's really it. So this is just a couple of if else statements to make sure that check if it's there already, update it. If not, create a new one. And that's really the add message. And then on reactions and on raw reactions is kind of useful. There's, I think, on reaction add, and that is just for, it's really weird. There's on reaction add, and then there's on raw reaction add. And the on raw reaction add, I find, can access emoji or reactions that people have to messages that are, weeks old or months old. Otherwise, the on reaction add seems like it has to be a really quite recent message that someone's posted up on the channel. So I find this one's much more effective. So, but because it's on raw reaction add, it brings back a binary objects, and you've got to convert them to strings to be able to add them to the database, as I understand it. And it's basically, again, checking if the reaction was from the bot. If it's not, go ahead and check if the event was adding a reaction, like an emoji. And then if it passes that test, go ahead and let's get the channel name from the channel ID. And then basically convert it to a string, which is the channel, and then run this function, which is add reaction. And add reaction is up here, and that feeds the channel name and the reaction, which is just the emoji. And it goes ahead and checks if the channel exists. If it does, go ahead and update it with this new emoji and grab the latest count on reactions and add one. And then if a channel doesn't exist, create a new channel with all that information as well. So that's basically what's going on there.
Got it.
And you can see over on the far right here are just showing at the top of this. I'm just doing some debugging tests that just basically prints all the keys in the database, which are the keys are in fact this is my test Discord server, and these keys are the Discord channels, and I can just to give it a little bit of so this is the dummy Discord server. So it's got a bunch of text channels that are just like general technology, blah, blah, blah. And I've just been testing the different, reactions. So let's go ahead and test it. So go to general, let's go to technology. Before I do that, so you can see down here, within our database, we've got technology, test hobbies, general, jokes, facts. And then these are the values for each one of those channels. And so we've got a key value pair, which we've got the last message, timestamp for that last message, the last reaction, which was a praise emoji, and then the amount of reactions in total that have occurred in that channel. Some of these channels haven't had any reactions yet, but they have a message. And let's see if I might have to bring up that information. I may have to stop and restart the server, but it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and do it. Whatever. Just go, hi, this is under technology. Actually, let's put it under the third one, which is, I know hobbies was a double one too. Whatever. Let's just hit that. And so there you go. We've just got a verification that it's added that timestamp for that message. And let's add a reaction to test hobbies because it doesn't have a reaction yet. It just has a timestamp. You can see just there. And let's, the fire emoji, and so actually we can just verify that it came through. So you can see the fire emoji down the bottom there. And we can, I think this works if I can just probably just, so if you just remember that, let's stop this.
I think
stop
like
this and run it.
We got the pretty much logic, so yeah.
So Simon, does this work with emojis from other servers?
It could, yeah. I mean, this is just creating a database of one server or one guild, as they call in the API, and its channels. But you could definitely, add a tree to it, add an object, make the guild an object. Definitely, yeah. And you just write in the logic, not only check for the channel but check for the guild. You could really branch it out for sure. So you can see here, there we go, bam, it's all fired up. And there's our timestamp of our text, our fire emoji, our reaction count is 1 because Test Hobbies channel hasn't had a reaction count yet. And yeah, so there's a couple of things. Yeah, Flask app's running and we've logged in as Archidale stats. So yeah, I called it Archidale stats. That was the bot name, but it can be named, if you call it anything you want. But yeah, it's really just like playing around with Discord and seeing how you can make like a digital sculpture out of, channel interactions.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. Maybe like I'll have a follow-up discussion because so you got the Decentraland data part and you still need to customize to the Decentraland SDK. So we have a couple of items in the agenda today. So I would do a follow-up discussion, and anyone who wants to have any ideas. But I think this is quite interesting experiment because one quick thought I had, let's say we have a metaverse space. You can also track how many active users there are there in the Discord. So what if in the metaverse, we could create a room where you can ping all the active members in the Discord, or there's a visual, there are 5 members from Archideo active, and you can visualize in the metaverse, and then, okay, you can ping them, okay, let's socialize or do a quick meetup. So kind of frictionless way of meeting in the metaverse.
So what, there's a crowd of people in the metaverse and you want to highlight who's VIP and who's not, kind of thing. It could be, are you pinging who in Decentraland, for instance, as an example, who in that scene is part of the Discord server or not?
So that could be one thing. What I was I go to Parcel and suddenly there's a display which checks how many active members are there in Archideo server. So 40 out of 500. And then if somehow I can create a chat group of pinging them, okay, let's catch up for a quick talk, then it adds another social dynamics to it. But that's a long topic, but we can follow up later. So I know Theo has mentioned a couple of agenda items, so I would directly hand over to Theo.
Hey guys, we have a couple of updates in terms of projects, but also in terms of the academy. So I'll start with that because that's more important at the moment. So consensus seems that it's not going to run the academy this year, and what they're doing is they're accelerating their plan of turning the academy into an education DAO. What does that mean? That means that we're still going to be able to participate with our members, same structure as before in terms of practicalities, right? So me and Kiko are going to be there. Mainly me for sure, depending on what Kiko has to do as well. It does that consensus will not be able to give certificates from that point of view, but in terms of the knowledge and whatever else you might be getting, it's going to be exactly the same. And also they're going to provide access to our members for in the program for their not the bootcamp, but essentially what was essentially the online kind of part. The material that is already online is going to be there anyway, right? And we're waiting to hear from consensus with Athens Labs on how exactly the education DAO is going to work. Now, the good thing is that we know this early and we can essentially become, members of the DAO as well. I don't know whether this is going to be on a personal basis or whether we can make a decision. I mean, we can vote on it, right? And have Arkidar essentially become a member. Me as a mentor, I had personally already committed to kind of expanding the work we did last year with Pico and create a kind of trainer's manual, which I'm still intending to do as well. So from that point of view, we would have already a contribution on our side. I'm just going to pause there if there are any questions from anyone. No, we're good.
Theo, so the course will continue, right?
Yeah. So the main idea is that the course continues. We're still on track to run it almost the same days, probably a little bit later. So they told us that they will have more for us in the beginning, in the middle of September. Normally the bootcamp run from 1st of September until end of November. So I'm expecting this timeline to shift a little bit. But also because it will fit the DAO, this will be a little bit more easier to follow in the sense that you won't have, if you need to take like 4 or 5 months, then, you do that rather than having to keep a very, very tight kind of pace.
Sorry, you also said we have access, we all have access to the course content, even though they're not doing it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So they'll give access to, let me read it exactly as they send it to an email to Zeno. What we're able to provide Athens Labs would be access to the blockchain developer on demand 2022-2023 for your scholarship candidate. So they have essentially a course that runs online in parallel. And from that point of view, they'll have study guides for the first section and build guides for the rest of the course, right? Now, the important part is that if you're going to have also, I mean, what people have told us is what made a difference for them was having a mentor. I don't want to overemphasize this, but it helped them essentially having me and Pico to answer questions when they needed to do so. So, yeah, in terms of the practical experience on the ground, nothing will change from that point of view. Is that okay, Sri? Anything else?
So can I ask?
Yeah.
So is this Consensus Academy the Consensus Ethereum, right?
Bootcamp.
Okay.
The consensus,
Cool.
so this is the consensus of the Ethereum ecosystem. We had, let me count them, 7 members jumping in as candidates from Arkidao. No, 8, sorry, missed one. And we're still going to be able to continue with those 8. Now, the good thing is that if it becomes an education DAO, then okay, the 8 get the scholarship and essentially also the access to the exclusive content, but it's much more easier there on an education DAO to onboard anybody else we might want to play to earn and all of that. So going forward, I think we will have less exclusiveness, but more of a kind of horizontal democratic kind of accessibility to this. Any other questions? Cool. Moving on, we have essentially 2. We have the infrastructure project and we have Crypto Twin as well. We had a meeting. I'm just providing an update on Crypto Twin first. We had a meeting with ETH with Una, who is leading Nons 1 on their side in Zurich, and we kind of agreed on a plan of action. And I'll be updating both the GitHub on this, but also kind of creating a project plan that allows us both to work on the research project and on the Arkidao product, right? And Mayur already had some really good insights on what we can do. Just for those of you that are new, Crypto Twin is essentially a blockchain-enabled digital twin for the AC industry, and is one of the kind of spearhead projects we are trying to build essentially as a DAO. The first, we had already 1 or 2, or actually 3 projects that came in initially that wanted essentially a kind of digital doppelganger in the metaverse. But the one we find we're most affinity with is Nons 1, that you provided the link there, which has been developed by a research group we are collaborating with in ETH. And the idea is that we're going to use that as a first kind of MVP to develop our own product that we can then replicate and offer to other clients that are interested on this. And I won't go too much into details, right? There are a lot of it kind of sits at the nexus of what the DAO is trying to do, which is disrupt the AEC industry, work on new opportunities that come into extended realities in the metaverse, but also work with decentralized and peer-to-peer economies. And last one is on the infrastructure and what we have in terms of the ID NFT, and so the Arkidao ID NFT and the project NFT. And my proposal would be for the group to consider launching a kind of initiative that could be called the 100 Days of Arkidao Code, taking place from 1st of September until 7th of December 2022. I kind of counted them, and they are about 100 days. It doesn't matter if it's like, we could do more, like we could do 102 days. And the idea there is to have people responsible both for plan ahead for this 3 months. Essentially it's three months and 7 days, and at least have MVPs at the end of November, essentially, which would very nicely give us the opportunity to have discussions in December about what to do for further development. It also works really nicely in terms of engagement, right? Because a lot of people, they find it difficult to engage with how we're doing, right? But 100 days of Arkidao code, or we could go with, naming each project essentially, could help us essentially promote it more to members, Twitter, and everyone else. but also we could kind of make weekly and monthly targets from our point of view.
Cool. So it's like a long hackathon.
Yeah. So normally 100 days of code are kind of, initiatives to learn code, right? So these examples exist on Twitter, where if you want to learn Python, for example, right, you commit that you're going to work on code every day. Personally, when I did the similar sprints in the past, it helped me. Even if you miss a day or two, right, you kind of keep on track. But also, it doesn't mean that it's only a single person working on this, right? But it might mean that we have kind of daily progress on all of that kind of idea. Is to have, minimum viable product as soon as possible, so that we can then use it for all of the other things that we want to use it for. And happy to take any questions on that as well.
So that is that 100 days of code for Akidao NFT or for Crypto Twin?
I would call it 100 days of code for Akidao, or 100 days of Akidao code and 100 days of Crypto Twin code, and two separate things in parallel, essentially.
Because the reason I asked is, like, in Crypto Twin, there might be few aspect of non-code. Let's say getting the geometry in the metaverse, cleaning, adding more features. So if it's 100 days of Crypto Twin, that will include some code and some non-code. Yeah.
Let's go with 100 days of Crypto Twin, right? I mean, it might be that you have a day where code is minimal and you only do the engineering on geometry and working on other stuff. But I'm trying to say, we need to kind of frame. We have a kind of general direction, but this will kind of help us frame what we're doing in terms of communicating inside and internally and externally, right? And I still need to have a meeting with Jefferson on operations. But I think this will help us frame it and push forward.
Yeah, if I had a comment on that, it's like there's things in the infrastructure that you won't figure out what needs to be as code until you actually run the MVP. But immediately some things that come to mind is like, well, how do you code the sales funnel and the marketing funnel or the referrals for anyone like, closing a project or servicing it? Like, right now, I think a lot of the thinking is around the core infrastructure of the, how do I take a metaverse digital twin and put it on a blockchain framework to give credit to everyone that's a part of it? Fine. That's the core aspect of that actual product. But then around it, there's like sales, marketing, customer success, operations around the core deliverable that are just like, you won't figure out until you do something like this 100-day sprint and then reprioritize the next phase that can actually become code.
I mean, exactly on that level. When I'm saying we're gonna focus on code at the moment, it doesn't mean we're not looking at anything else from that point of view, right? I'll give you an example. One of the smart contracts that is supposed to work on the infrastructure works as a kind of project management tool, but now we have kind of planned it on a really, really, really high level abstract kind of understanding, right? The moment we go in, everything breaks. Right, and you need in parallel to basically go and say, well, I tried this, it doesn't work. Let's go back and figure out what are the other possibilities we have to work on that level. So I kind of expect this to work more as a sprint that also takes with it a lot of other stuff that we need to figure out, right? So cryptoeconomics, for example. So it might be that, but I'm trying to say that we need to kind of go beyond just planning ahead, but actually planning and building as we go along. A lot of it will change later, right? I mean, that's the main idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, maybe like having some milestones also defined, like bi-weekly goals. Because like I can say 100 days of Crypto Twin, and that involves a lot of like IoT and various integration. But I could say, okay, first 2 weeks, the milestone is just get the model and do one communication. And then each day, like when we are posting, having public accountability, we know what we need in order to accomplish that milestone.
Yeah, exactly. What I would like to do is basically break it down into work packages for each one of those, resource that, and also figure out what we are missing in terms of resources and what we're missing in terms of knowledge. Just to go back a little bit to what the person was trying to say in terms of operations, sales, and so on and so forth, right? And at the moment, if you have crypto trading, let's say you have the MVP working, right? We don't have a sales funnel. We don't have, I mean, apart from our network, so this is not a funnel, right? It doesn't produce anything. So we need to figure out that as well, at least to kind of understand how it will work from our point. But I would say, yeah, let's try to project manage it on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, looking also at resources and opinions. Because then we can make external calls in terms of what we need in terms of developers. I'm not so much worried about crypto thing, but more of the infrastructure.
Yeah. So I think this might be, I'm briefly taking like 2 minutes of your time. So during the weekly core guild call, we mentioned about like D work. So tying back to your idea of like weekly or bi-weekly goals, what we could do is if we break down that goal, okay, goal 1, do IoT, goal 2, work on smart contract, which integrates IoT device. We can break down those tasks and the people in the DAO can apply and we can organically form like 2 or 3 member team around that task. And it gives like a whole planning, okay, what, like how are we moving forward? Does any subgroup needs more resources or time? So
yeah, we can try that. Jefferson, what do you think about breaking it down on that level?
Yeah, you're gonna have to get there eventually. So why not start? I mean, I haven't been fortunate enough to plug into all of the dev calls, but from my experience in just like general project management, right? It's like you need to experiment with how people are going to do the work before you figure out how to tie that back into actual code. So like in project management, I mean, the whole thing is project management. It just depends on like what pillar do you use? Is it is it project management for sales, project management for marketing? Is it project management for the design phase? Is it project management for the schematic phase? Is it project management for, you know, the code development? I don't know, but you just kind of start and have to put some sort of infrastructure to test it, which is like, can we tie D work with a script to the, you know, final deliverable in some way, and then try to run that so that the first time that someone literally completes a task, it's tied back to the design challenge that ties back to the framework of the crypto twin for solving that design challenge, which ties back to some semblance of a reward.
Yeah,
So,
actually, to your point, Dwork does that very well, where you can even tie the task deliverable with a GitHub commitment or like commit or pull request. And then technically, if you're doing it like professionally on that level, we could create our, like, let's say just tokens, reward tokens, and each task. And I don't want to complicate this, but having like some interesting mechanics around what's the weight of various tasks and how much time people are dedicating towards it. Because right now we are doing a task, and some task might require more time resources and some might require less. And at the end of 100-day, we want to acknowledge all the long-term contributions of all the DAO members. So how do we tie that with not only task, but like tangible human hours or value?
yeah. And like reward, I mean, even philosophically, there's the aspect of like, what if multiple people try to solve the same design challenge? How do you deal with the mechanics of, you know, who submits it versus who gets accepted by? Like there's some factor of like, you know, I'm the architectural project manager, so, you know, I have to determine which best design proposed solution to the design wins, and then somehow see if there's a pattern or something that emerges to remove the human from that so that it can, you know, be more programmatic. And that's just kind of like, I'm talking conceptual. So on a practical basis, it just makes sense to operationalize something, anything, even if it's just saying like, you know, there's 5 phases of the design project. pre-concept, design development, schematic design, metaverse build, and then metaverse operations and maintenance, or whatever you call it. I mean, I'm talking concept. Those 5 phases have, a handful of tasks, and that could be the first thing to start with, and not even worry about sales, marketing, and operations and customer success. Just care about the core project management operations of a metaverse architectural studio, right? Roughly those 5 phases.
Let's try to separate 2 things, right? One is, how do you do a design project in a decentralized manner? I don't want to boast, but I'm proud to say we've written some papers on this, right? So we have the concept in terms of how you could actually try to break down a design path and use a DAO essentially to design. In terms of really quantitative numerical tasks, so anything that has to do with optimization, it's really easy to automate what passes as the next solution and synchronize. But if you're talking about more of a qualitative kind of idea, you need at distinct points in time to actually vote as a DAO, and this requires design experience, or at least some kind of staking or having some stakeholder participation, right? So this could be represented with tokens. Now, I don't want to complicate it too much in terms of, because it's early on what we're building. We're not yet, we don't have a fully operational product where we can have all of the guilds working. So these are, again, initial prototypes where we're going to be jumping between coding, designing, figuring out concepts, getting back to it, until we get to a level where, by breaking all of these, we kind of have some kind of clarity where everything works. But I understand also the need for recording who does what, so that once we have the cryptoeconomics kind of idea solved, we can get people rewarded, because that's one of the weaknesses we have at the moment, right? We don't have, other than being passionate about the project and understanding that there is huge potential, we don't have a way to reward people apart from that.
Yeah, I think this is where we are laying the foundation. So I've seen with other protocols trying on similar lines, let's consider this becoming a startup, and we are doing the product development, and there is founders get vested equity, and then you get, but here, if you have a particular, let's say, we just theoretically assume, let's have 100,000 tokens in order for this 100 days of development for that bounty. And now there's various tasks. Depending on the difficulty and skill set level, those tokens are distributed within the task. So at some point when the product has an MVP and there is a market determined value, suddenly now not only you have various contributors fairly rewarded with tokens, the tokens will be pegged with a actual market value. So during the development phase, we are rewarding people with tokens, which has nothing value, but suddenly when you get, let's say, external investment, it's proof of contribution equity, what I would say.
Yep. So from that point of view, we need to kind of at least figure out the cryptoeconomics, at least for the early contributors to the DAO, and come up with a either, I don't want to call it a vesting schedule, but at least a distribution of how this will work.
Yeah, and for that kind of stuff, I'll honestly say all of Web3 is kind of figuring it out. But there's a couple of articles on vesting schedule and distribution of the initial tokens. But it honestly all comes down to, sounds dumb, but in the beginning, just make believe. So the value of a token is just imaginary until you're 2 or 3 years in and there's actual revenues that represent the value of that token. So honestly, if you look at it that way, it just becomes down to based on other people and other frameworks, what is reasonable, and kind of going from there. From standard startup stuff, it's 4-year vest, 1-year cliff. For Web3, everyone's kind of coming up with their different paradigms, but that's one that exists there. Yeah, those are just my initial thoughts. But just pick. You just got to pick something, and make it work. It's as kind of weird as it sounds. You just pick something and make it work and go from there. Everything does eventually get formalized.
Okay, so I think we got diverted to a lot of equity, But what let's do like a smart way. What we can do is we can have the task on the dwork of various things within what we are doing, and in tasks we can assign people who are actually doing it, and whatever time at some point in future on snapshot we can make a like DAO proposal. What's the total like tokens that should be awarded for each task? So we don't need to predetermine right now, but what we need to do is like determine how many people worked on that particular task, and somehow noting how many hours they worked. At some point we'll evaluate and give them tokens instead of right now hurrying it up and just giving them tokens.
Yeah, I think we need some kind of let's say peer evaluation from that point of view, right? So initially you can do it with keeping track of who did what. The other thing you can do is also work with a peer evaluation because the numbers are small at the moment, just to essentially assign a number to it, right? Like, go, okay, you deserve 1 million tokens, right? Here you go, right? Or something like that. But also we need to figure out what the it's not just about the value. I will kind of insist on this. It has to do with utility and how does that go forward. So let's be careful with dwork as well in terms of not breaking down, not getting back on things that might only be on dwork and then nobody works on them. So anyway, just my 2 cents. So from my perspective, I just will work on a lot of this stuff for the next 3 months for sure, right? So, and I'm probably gonna get a better plan that I can present next week or probably the weekend on both CryptoQueen and the infrastructure. So anybody who wants to work on that, just let me know and then we can connect.
Yeah, I think like this might be a good time. Like we have been talking about CryptoTwin, and maybe like people who are in the call who are interested to join CryptoTwin, just like on a higher level, what kind of contributions are we looking for and how they can contribute, like that might help.
Yeah. So at the moment, essentially we're talking about a digital twin that is blockchain enabled. So we have a fairly good understanding of what it will look like in terms of the smart contract. But to make the smart contracts work, you need IoT expertise. So you need Internet of Things expertise, whether that is Arduino sensors, Raspberry Pi or similar, or any other. I mean, I'm not an expert in IoT, but any other kind of sensor that can talk to the internet. We need people with experience in 3D modeling. Not the metaverse per se at the moment, but we would definitely invite people with experience in 3D Unreal game engine, especially if you're good at the newest 5 engine. That would be really, really, really welcome. We're trying to make this as future-proof as possible, hence why I'm mentioning specifically Unreal 5. We also need people with experience in front-end interfaces, obviously smart contracts, and if you have experience building actual digital twins, that would also be really welcome.
I'm down to help.
Okay, good.
IoT. I've got a device right now turning a water pump that's a 40-minute drive on a farm, turning the water pump on and off during, and it's Raspberry Pi. It's got a base hat to connect to 5G, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm super interested in CryptoTwin. So let me know how I can help.
Okay, perfect. So what I'll do is we don't actually have a particular channel for that. No, I think we do on Discord, right?
Yeah.
So can you type your email? Sorry, I'm a little bit classical. That's my way of saying I'm old. Can you type your email so I can email you?
yeah, like people who are interested, maybe can type the email, we can follow. But also, like Theo, what I was thinking is, um, we we might have also a requirement, because like if we get a lot of 3D modelers, but we just need few ones, we might need like some front end person for dashboarding it, some metaverse like
Yep.
IoT. So like the requirements of what a kind of like skill set we need, and then like picking and choosing. Because sometimes like what I've seen in DAO is uh, we try to become very open, and then if we get very more than enough people, it becomes like a various kiosk where everyone is throwing ideas and it leads to the execution. So
Yeah. That's why I was trying to say that I will try to project manage at the beginning, in the sense that I'll basically come up and say, this is what the specifications, this is the specifications I think we should build, and this is what I think we need, right? So one person doing that, two persons doing that, right? So I'll break it down as in the more granular level as possible, including everything else that might be needed in terms of marketing this or communicating this, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, so
let's see what we get essentially.
yeah, if I can make a quick suggestion in our Discord channel, like if people who are interested can write what are they interested to work on and what are their current skill sets, so it will help us evaluate this. Yeah.
The other idea I wanted to have on CryptoTwin, I don't know whether this is feasible or not. I mean, the three projects that were similar was, I mean, one was the Provoke 3D printed project. I got everyone's email, by the way, and I'll make sure also you're added to the CryptoTwin Discord channel. But going back to this, we had essentially the gallery and we had a crypto barista, if I'm not mistaken, right, Major? Would it make sense to basically get back to those people and say, hey, this is what we're trying to build, as long as we have the specifications ready and we have a good model, at least, you know, in terms of visual, with and probably even we're on a good way of doing the bilateral communication between the physical twin and the digital twin, to go back to those projects and say, hey, this is what we've built so far. Are you still interested in collaborating with us, right? And where are you in terms of that journey? Just to see whether there is any interest from them to kind of engage again.
I think like that's a great suggestion. I like just before the call, I was talking to that art gallery, and the good part is they have a digital twin model of their art gallery in crypto voxel metaverse and other. So we have one-to-one replica with all the details.
Yeah.
So all we need like to collaborate with them is like getting some sensors and discussing like what they want to bilaterally or bidirectionally communicate. So they are more than happy to like, they are in this physical digital bridge for artist community. So they're very much open. They even have like digital screens. So we could get very experimental with how the art within the screen can also be experimented.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could have, I think, two directions on this. One is to find what is the common ground between all of these projects in terms of a minimum viable product, right? What do we need to at least have it as a code and practice that can be deployed and redeployed, you know, when the next one comes, and what might be then also sitting either on the side or on top in terms of customizing it. So from my point of view, we might get a little bit better. I mean, I know now in ETH will be really excellent in terms of, you know, figuring out what is the next step in terms of research. But you also need to figure out what is the kind of common denominator between these projects and what might come into the future. We might not be able to do it immediately, but it, you know, it pays dividend to have that input already.
Yeah, and having more parties will help. Like, what are the needs, and maybe like coming up with a common framework which is generic enough to address them. The good
Yep.
part about this is like people are living it, using it, so we get real-time data. With the meditation house, like it might not be occupied and it might not get that. So there are pros and cons. Yeah.
Well, as far as I understand, at least the meditation house does get used on ETH campus. I mean, it runs on a test network,
Oh,
but
okay, okay.
I mean, they do use it even as a novelty. But also, what Una and Jens have done is that when they are presenting it in specific events, you know exactly that on that event you're going to get more people. So at least then you can also, one of the things we can do is either observe. I mean, with GDPR, it will be a little bit difficult in terms of privacy, right, or similar. Or we could at least design experiments that we know when things are going to happen, rather than be surprised afterwards, going, okay, we see a spike in use. You know, how did that happen? Why did that happen? And so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm writing to contact the Chicago Gallery. Remind me the name of the gallery.
I'm not art.
I'm not art.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am not art. Okay, excellent.
So can I just ask, like, with the crypto twin? Sorry, it's kind of a vague for like what's the value propositions that we're honing in around crypto twins, or are we trying to just work that out at the moment? You know, is it a gallery, meditation space, a preschool? You know.
Well, the original. I'll tell you what the direction is. I mean, there are many value propositions that you could go for once you have it. But let me start with the idea that, you know, the initial idea of why do you build a twin, a digital twin, is that you do it because it's cheaper to actually use the twin to manage the physical asset, right? You have a digital twin and you can use that.
Did we lose him? You take a screenshot. Send it to you. Oh, he's back.
Yeah. So, were you taking a screenshot on me with a really strange face? I heard that.
Technically, it's live stream on YouTube, so I don't need to. I can go back anytime.
Oh no, but you know, there is a difference in the media, Major, between a video and a screenshot, because the screenshot has intention behind it. Right. So yeah, main idea is that you use digital twin to make decisions about physical assets. And then the second question comes, you know, why do you need to use blockchain, right? You could actually do a lot of the stuff we're discussing without actually using smart contracts. So one aspect might be that you really want to tap into decentralized economies that are metaverse enabled. So if the digital twin is no longer just a vehicle for you to make decisions for the physical asset, but is a real digital doppelganger of the physical space, and you are active in terms of metaverse operations, then it pays that to have this secure way of governing the two, between, so the relationship between digital and physical. Another thing that might help you on this is that you might want to have what people at EDS call autonomous spaces, right? So essentially infrastructure that manages itself. And having the digital twin can help a DAO, the digital twin blockchain enabled and smart contract enabled can help a DAO make that a lot more easy in terms of management, in terms of security, and in terms of autonomy, right? So
yeah, like an oracle, potentially.
Yeah. If you want to take that step a lot further, right? So imagine nuclear power stations, you know, infrastructure that needs to really be digitally secure. And you also need to have the digital twin secure, because if you're making decisions on it, this cannot be more compromised, one of the best ways to do it actually at the moment is via blockchain technologies. And if that works for a collective, then having it on a public blockchain, because that might be the other question you might have, is the way to go from my point of view. So these are kind of like the simple ideas we have at the moment. We have thought of even more crazier stuff, right? Which is still to come, right? So the crypto twin might be the culmination of a whole process of running an AC project through smart contract and blockchain in the end, right? So it might be like the end result that then builds the physical asset. If you then also have, for example, a crypto twin for each building in a city, and you have an aggregate, you might have, for example, easier ways to do transactions between buildings, for example, right? Exchanging energy and paying for it, or other stuff that might be exchanging. Yeah, and if you give me another 10 minutes, I will go even more psyched.
Yeah, like
I think that's enough.
one more like interesting thing I was like, when I was thinking about is like about data ownership. What if like you are using the space, you own the data, and then you can leverage economies by sharing the data, and you get like rewards for it. And also things become very interesting when like right now like we are moving towards this spatial economy. So I wanted to have this feature where instead of voting on 2D, that okay, what building texture you have, you vote on a spatial way, and each when you select various options of it change from metal to steel to glass, suddenly the environment changes along with that option, and you give also additional metrics. If you want a glass here, it's gonna be this much carbon footprint. If you want a wall here, this much. So suddenly that 2D data has much more communication and implication tied when you have this digital twin. So DAO in metaverse, for that makes so much sense.
If I could add for a second to that, it's when I've explored everything that a crypto twin can enable, it kind of boils down into two buckets. Like all of the data, like Mayur is mentioning it, and even beyond it, like everything will eventually be data, and there's value in it. That's why you have companies like Facebook and companies like Amazon, for example, buying Roomba and the iRobot, because what they're essentially doing is collecting data. But the crypto twin infrastructure could be the secure blockchain framework for all spatial data everywhere, anywhere, right? So that's kind of like the value, period. And then to your analogy, Simon, of the oracle between the physical and the digital, when all types of assets are kind of are always tied back to ROI. Like, what is the return on the money in based on the money out that I get out of it? And whether it's a digital asset or a physical asset, the money in is always in three buckets: the development capital, the capital expenditures, or the operating expenditures. The development capital is typically the capital that you use to get the idea off the ground. Let me explore it. Let me buy a small parcel. Let me do a discovery, call it $1 million. Then the capital expenditures are like, great, now that we've done the study, let me pull in $100 million to develop this shopping mall or this infrastructure project or whatever else. And then finally we have the operating capital, which is, this is how long I need to operate this thing for, and this is what it costs me every year. So, call it $10 million. But what you get on the other side is the ROI. Is it like the human value, the human utility of having that highway? Is it the utility of like number of people that shop at that store? Is it the utility of like the number of digital visitors that I have to that metaverse parcel, et cetera? And then there's a way for the crypto twin to be like the core of capturing the value that the physical or digital asset has on the outside. Because that's typically not something that's available for either the general contractor, the builders, or the architects. They're typically only transactional, meaning, you provide this labor, you get this value, and they're typically unable to align towards the actual ROI of the overall project, being like, this project created X amount of value, whether it's monetary or utility or experience or, emotional value. And through having that kind of cataloged in a core cryptographic, like secure infrastructure, you're like, well, I as an architect or I as a designer, I as a builder am contributing towards the ROI, and in theory can have that ROI captured for myself through a token or some other blockchain mechanic.
That's fascinating that you mentioned that, because it's actually, there's a very good book by Philip Bernstein, I think it is his name, and he talked about BIM, the future of BIM, and looking at how we can extrapolate BIM data to identify value. And value could be broken down to, transactional value, aspirational value, and all these value propositions out of the projects that we design and develop and build. We need to be focusing more on them. And if we can tokenize them, and that's essentially what we're talking about here, then what we produce is more valuable, effectively.
Which book is that?
It's by Philip Bernstein. I've actually got a hard copy of it. Let me grab it 1 second, because I can't remember the name of it.
On that train, it's like, how does that architect or that engineer that made the recommendation to go with like a cooling chiller or something that saved the building $100 million over 10 years, they don't get rewarded for like that insight, but they probably saved that AEC company, I don't know, several millions in top line, and were able to like get them to develop on budget. But as a low level architect or engineer, you're providing a whole ton of value, but you never really get to capture it other than your dollar per hour.
That's why one of the things I developed in the last year was this kind of idea of collective digital factories for building, where you are able essentially to take and share from the solutions you provide to, essentially a DAO designing the building. You gain by increasing essentially performance, whether that's carbon performance, heating, all of that. The concepts are there, right? So we've developed the concepts, we've developed really simple mechanisms to test those. The biggest problem is actually finding a project to run this on. So, but, as soon as we have the MVP on CryptoTwin, I'm going to switch to that one. Architects to design data, okay. And what was the offer? If you can provide that as well.
Yeah, looks like that. Yeah,
It's in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat. It's a great book, Architecture Design Data. Philip Bernstein. He actually worked for Autodesk for a couple of decades, and he was part of the team that put forward that they should buy Revit initially, because he could see the potential for BIM. But anyway, yeah.
Nice. The father of BIM. I am conscious about the time here, so is there anything which we need to discuss before we wrap up? Actionable items, things we should do by next week?
So I'll provide project breakdowns and list of tasks and resources. I want to check essentially the channel for CryptoTwin. I might need some help essentially in terms of communication. And then we can take it from there.
Awesome. And I'll also tag you on the channel. So,
okay. So I don't get lost. Thank you.
No. We have like 20 channels, so sometimes it becomes difficult to navigate on Discord. So
yeah, and Theo, while you're on the call, it'd be great to just schedule a time, if we can find it.
Do you wanna do it now? Oh, well, actually, I'll do it the other way around. You sent me an email, didn't you?
Yeah, but I mean, this doesn't have to be on the call. It's just like, hey, do you have 5 minutes to find a time that works over the next, handful of couple of days?
Yeah.
I have my year. We're talking on Friday, so let's make sure to chat Friday my year, and then I think
we can do that as soon as the live streaming is stopped, so I don't publish my schedule to everyone.
Yeah.
What I'm doing on the weekend.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. Shri has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to participate, guys. Shri, you're muted.
Yes, yes. So I am not art gallery have their space in crypto voxel, and in the last discussion with crypto twin, you were saying that we might be doing it on Decentraland or maybe a standalone model. So did we? Are we going with Decentraland only now?
So, okay, the thing is, for the customization we want in terms of IoT, our own database tracking, Decentraland is a better platform compared to CryptoVoxel because it has high code and customization. So as of now, the infrastructure in Decentraland is good enough to test our minimum viable product rather than doing it from scratch or other. So
yeah, just to try and answer Sri, right? So we're going to try Decentraland, exactly what you said. We're going to try Decentraland. If we have a client who is paying for any other platform, we would try on that one as well. The goal at the moment, at least for the next year, would be to have something running also on Unreal 5, mainly because if you look at that engine, you can see what it can produce.
It's amazing.
But in terms of integration, Decentraland is the easiest low hanging fruit at the moment.
Okay.
good. All right. So yeah, so Theo, I was thinking any other actionable items for us. So my goal is to I think once Hiri is back, we have the 3D model of Known S1.
Yep.
So I don't know how many people in the call are have worked with Decentraland, but the goal is to convert that into GLB file, get into the metaverse, and then I'm gonna set up a GitHub repo for it and start with some basic API calls just to set up the structure, and then we are doing bi-weekly meeting with Una. So in the next meeting, I'm gonna ask her how is she making the API calls and how what's the mechanism we can integrate in Decentraland with the IoT sensors she has. So short-term 2-week focus for me is to get the model there and some bidirectional setup in Decentraland. So that's the goal.
Cool. Is that all? So you're diving into TypeScript and setting up the scene and stuff like that?
Yeah. So for context, I spent 4 to 5 months in Decentraland already. So with the structure, so yeah, I'm aware about the setup and how it takes to make those calls. But for people, I don't know the interest, but if there are more people interested in Decentraland SDK, I'll send a link in the Crypto Twin chat, or I can send it here. So there's this Git. I think this is a good way to wrap up the call. Let me share. This might give a lot of interesting ideas to people who are in the call who wants to work in Crypto Twin. So
yeah, let me know if you need a hand. I've been diving into the SDK.
Yeah, I think we can work together. So there is if you go to Google and type awesome repo Decentraland, I couldn't recommend a better way to start. And just to figure out what are the possibilities with Decentraland, they have a lot of these examples and you can just download the repo and start. So how to make a animation, particle effect, how to make dancing floor. Then if you're making a game, how to make a dashboard, how to make an item picker, gamify the metaverse experience around it, item picker, Then what if you want to make a non-player character bot who greets you when you enter the metaverse space? So you can even like build on top of this experiment. And if we tried this video streaming, so right now what I checked recently, they're building in some more integration for live streaming, but the old one sucks. So hopefully things become interesting where we are doing like gated access in IRL world, but now we can also do gated access in virtual world with, okay, if you hold this many tokens, only you can open this door in your metaverse world, or if you have a particular NFT holder. So, and yeah, so the first goal is that bidirectional communication. Second goal with the crypto twin is then adding some gamification aspect in the space. So
Can I just ask a question real quick? As I understand, we can't put YouTube streaming. We can't add YouTube to Decentraland because they won't know the IP address that's requesting that information, and that's how they monetize the whole YouTube platform. So unfortunately, you can't do it in D-Lane, but you can do it in crypto voxels because they've done something to allow it to happen, but unfortunately you can't do it. You can't stream YouTube in D-Lane, but I don't know, I could be wrong. Could have been up, could be changed by now, I don't know.
So like there are like examples of streaming Vimeo, and we tested, like it requires .m3u8 format to get into, it changes the texture, but I need to double check because when I updated my SDK with the latest version, they had a default live streaming scene. So I need to like investigate a bit what changes they have made. But CryptoVoxel is so much easier. You just pull a component, add a URL, and get going. That is one of the con of Decentraland about lacking. But they have like a lot of other tutorials. Like if you go down where, okay, how to set up your own custom database integration, how to like make, let's say when we are doing multiplayer game, how to set up with a Coliseus multiplayer server, things like that. Cool. All right. So maybe, so what like within the crypto twin channel, we can make various roles. So one is like people who are interested in Decentraland SDK will form a role. People who are interested in 3D modeling and smart contracts, and people who are just interested in IoT communication. So like those 4-5 roles we can form. So we'll only tag people who are interested in particular area when we're doing like specific meetups. Cool. I think it's gonna be very fun and awesome experiment with some real world integration. So anything okay. Praveen, Bobby, Shri, any concluding thoughts you have?
Nope.
Awesome.
Everything good.
Everything good. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm gonna close the meeting and let's build something awesome.